Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Okay, so we already learned about how to determine or calculate your probability in your binomial distribution. Okay, so in this video, we're going to learn how to calculate the mean, variance and standard deviation of your binomial distribution. So there are three different formulas that you need to memorize in order for you to calculate the mean, variance and standard deviation for your binomial distribution questions. Okay, so the formulas are very simple and very easy to be memorized. Okay, so what are the three different formulas? Okay, so the first one is mean. Okay, so the mean for or the expected value, expected x value of your binomial distribution is just simply n multiply with p. Okay, while variance is npq and the standard deviation is just a square root of your variance. Okay, so square root of variance, or in other words, okay, we can also say that it is a square root of npq. Okay, just a little reminder. Okay, perhaps you need to review, okay, replay my first video if you're still unfamiliar with the terms n, p and q. Okay, but still in this video I'm going to have a recap on the every terms of that, what is the definition for each term. Okay, so n is referring to number of trials. Okay, so normally this one it will give in the questions. P is the probability of successful outcome. Okay, outcome. And Q is the vice versa. Okay, the opposite to the successful. Okay, probability of failure outcomes. Okay, so let's try with one example. Okay, so on how to use this different formula. So 20% of the electric components, okay, so please highlight 20%, produced by a factory are defective. So these 20% are defective. If a sample of 40 electric components are taken, okay, so 40 here, find the number of components expected to be defective. Okay, and calculate the variance. Okay, so that means they are asking you to calculate expected is for mean as well as for the variance. Okay, so where can you find these questions? You can refer to your STPM Mathematics M textbook on exercise 3.9 for question 2. Okay, so how to solve this one? Okay, so first, 20%, this means this is a probability. We convert it into decimal, so 0.20, and this is for defective. Okay, since the question asks you to calculate the expected means for the defective, so we can assume this is your P. Okay, so 40 here is referring to the number of trials, so this is your N. Okay, so the question asks you to calculate E, X, mean, and this is the variance. Okay, so what is the formula? Okay, so your E, X is equals to NP. Okay, so your N is 40 and your P is 0.20. Okay, so just press your calculator. 40 times 0.20, you will get 8. So that means the expected numbers of components to be defective is 8. Okay, what about variance? Okay, so variance, okay, the formula is NPQ. So we have N, we have P, so that means we have to determine Q. Okay, so Q, if you remember, is just simply 1 minus P. So that means 1 minus 0.20, which is 0.80. Okay, so now let's substitute into the formula. So your N is 40, your P is 0.20, and your Q is 0.80. Okay, so that means your variance will turn out to be 6.4. Simple, is it? Okay, so let's move on to the second example. In this example too, okay, so the probability of a mango chosen at random being infested by worms is 0.10. Okay, so find the expectation. So they want you to calculate expectation, that means mean, and standard deviation of the numbers of mangoes that are worm infested in a sample of 30 mangoes. Okay, so let's label which one is N, which one is P. Okay, so this is your P, this is your N. Okay, so you need to calculate expectation, that means your EX. Okay, so mean is equals to NP, which your N is 30 and your P is 0.10. So that means your mean is 3. Okay, so your standard deviation, okay, so your standard deviation equals to this one, and this is a square root of your variance, which equals to square root of NPQ. Okay, so we have N, we have P, that means we have to find out what is our Q. Okay, so Q is just simply 1 minus P. Okay, so 1 minus 0.10, which equals to 0.90. And that means we have to substitute into the formula now. We already have all the informations needed. So N is 30, okay, multiply with your P, which is 0.10, multiply with your Q, which is 0.90, and square root of all of this. Okay, so if you press your calculator, okay, so you will get your standard deviation to be 1.643. Okay, so that is the values of your variance. Okay, let's move on to the last examples for this video. So for this one, okay, so they give you, okay, if the expectation of X equals to 3.2, so this is the mean, and P equals to 0.4. So they ask you to calculate what is N and what is the standard deviation. Okay, so how to do this? Okay, so mean, okay, EX equals to 3.2 equals to NP. So in the questions, they give you your P to be 0.4. So 3.2 equals to N multiplied with 0.4. That means you can find your N by moving the 0.4 to the left. So from multiplication, it turns out to be division. So 3.2 divides 0.4. So please press your calculator and you will get your N to be 8. Okay, so we already have N and we already have P from the questions. Now, let's find out what is standard deviation. Okay, so standard deviation equals to square root of your variance. Okay, so variance is NPQ. So we have still not yet find what is our Q, but it's very easy to find Q. Okay, so Q equals to 1 minus P equals to 1 minus 0.4. Therefore, your Q equals to 0.6. Okay, now we can substitute all the required values into the formula. So your N is 8, multiply with your P, which is 0.4, and multiply with your Q, which is 0.6, and square root of everything. Okay, so it turns out to be your standard deviation is 1.386. Okay, so that's the final examples for this video, which is to calculate mean, variance, and standard deviation for your binomial distribution. Okay, so please watch my next video, which is on how to determine the mode of binomial distribution. Okay, see you guys again. Bye bye. Thank you for watching.